Introducing visual impairment.
The definition of visual impairment is a reduced ability in vision that cannot be corrected by standard glasses or contact lenses. The term visual impairment indicates a continuum of loss of sight, including blindness. There are two types of vision impairment: eye-based problems and those that are brain-based. Cerebral visual impairment, CVI, is a brain-based issue in which the eye gets the image and the brain perceives it but cannot categorise or sort the information. Because of this, glasses cannot fix the problem, and so just because children may look at objects, this doesn't mean they'll be able to interpret them. This is the most common type of visual impairment. Refractive issues can sometimes be fixed with specific types of glasses or contact lenses. However, if two conditions are acting together, any form of treatment can be difficult. Some examples of refractive errors are myopia or short-sightedness, hypermetropia or long-sightedness, and astigmatism. In myopia, the eyeball is too long, and so this results in blurred vision due to the way light rays enter the eyes. Hypermetropia is almost the opposite, and this is an issue that results when the eyeball is too short but causes blurred vision also. Astigmatism is another issue with the cornea having irregular curvature, which means vision can be distorted. Other types of visual impairment are those such as cataracts, nystagmus, retinitis pigmentosa, and these conditions cannot usually be fixed with glasses or contact lenses.
Children with visual impairment are mostly in mainstream education, and there is only a small percentage that attend special schools. However, only 44% of children with visual impairment issues were assessed as having reached a good level of development in the EYFS. By the end of Key Stage 1, only half of pupils with visual impairment had reached the expected standard in reading and mathematics, and in Key Stage 2 the pattern continues, where only 1/3 of these students have reached the expected standards in reading, writing and mathematics at this level. Most commonly, if a child has a visual impairment, they will have other special educational needs. In order to assist these children being successful in mainstream education, each local authority's visual impairment service will have at least one qualified teacher of visual impaired children, known as QTVIs. QTVIs have a qualification in vision impairment in addition to qualified teacher status. Their support will differ according to the individual needs of each child, but the main role of a QTVI is to ensure that the children's needs are being met through inclusive teaching and learning approaches. They can advise on appropriate strategies to promote both social inclusion and independent learning where possible. There are a number of useful inclusive teaching strategies that can be used to maximise the learning opportunities for children with visual impairment. It is believed by many that most of what we learn is learnt through our vision, automatically and simultaneously through observations of our surroundings and the people around us, also known as incidental learning. Therefore, because the opportunity for incidental learning is limited for a child with visual impairment, it is recommended that they are given extra explanations, descriptions and repeated experiences in order to help them learn what fully sighted children learn by simply watching others and imitating them. There is a wide variety of suggested teaching strategies. However, it is important to consider that these recommendations will not always be suitable for all visually impaired children. The appropriate teaching strategies that are required will depend on the individual case and what best meets the child's needs.
There are several suggested adaptations that should be considered in order to maximise the learning potential of children with visual impairments and to help compensate for learning, which naturally occurs through visual observation for a child who is fully sighted. One specific example of an important adaptation is the consideration of the positioning of a child with a visual impairment in the classroom. This is because children with a visual impairment often require the use of bulky equipment to enable them to engage fully in the learning process, and most of which rely on a power source. This factor in itself limits where the child can be seated. Another considerations must be made to avoid the cables from becoming a trip hazard. However, efforts should also be made to ensure the child is still given the same interaction opportunities as other children. There is a common myth believed by many that visually impaired people have super senses, but in fact the reality is people with this type of disability have often learned instead how to use other senses more efficiently. This misunderstanding is encouraged in the media by the way blind or partially sighted characters are played on TV. For example, a blind superhero featured in the series Marvel Daredevil relied on his extraordinary heightened senses to fight crime using martial arts. There are a number of different resources that have been designed to facilitate children with a visual impairment in reaching their full potential. It is, however, important to add that not all resources mentioned on this slide are suitable for all visually impaired children. For example, not all visually impaired children have the ability to read Braille, as the skill has to be learned. In addition to this, children who suffer from specific conditions such as retinitis pigmentosa often lose their peripheral vision first, often described as tunnel vision. Therefore, enlarged print resources would be a potential hindrance and would put the child at a disadvantage. In the past, it was widely believed that all reading materials for children with a visual impairment needed to be enlarged. However, it is now understood that the legibility of the print depends on not only its size but also on other factors such as the font, spacing between letters, the layout of the page, and the contrast between the print and the background, all of which have an effect on how user-friendly reading materials are for a child with a visual impairment. It is important to consider the answers to each of these questions carefully before making adjustments for a child with a visual impairment, as their individual needs will vary according to the severity of their condition and the nature of their impairment. For example, the level of experience a child has of vision is especially important, as a visual impairment that is present from birth will have a more significant impact on all aspects of development and learning than if the visual impairment is acquired later on in life. Often children with sight loss benefit from increased or enhanced lighting. However, there are some types of visual impairment conditions that cause glare problems, even in environments where there are normal levels of lighting. Braille is a useful tool in helping the visually impaired become literate. However, the term visually impaired refers to a group of people with varying levels of light, therefore it may not be necessary for all visually impaired children, and Braille is more typically used by the blind or people with very low levels of sight. It can also sometimes be difficult to learn, as it involves the ability to memorise the code.
The RNIB offer a wide range of services for blind and partially sighted people. As a charity, they offer access to the RNIB Library, the largest of its kind in the UK. There are a wide range of books, newspapers and magazines in the collection that can be offered in a range of different formats. Within the education sector, the RNIB play a helpful role by providing guidance as well as having developed many resources too. Clear Vision are a charity that provide Braille, print and picture books for children with visual impairment, so they are able to enjoy the same books as their sighted friends or family. They offer more than 14,000 books of all genres, adding new titles each month. Guide Dogs are a charity that offer many services. Not only do they provide guide dogs, but also a multitude of different technology and sensory equipment to help with study and play for those with visual impairment. Similarly to Clear Vision, through the Guide Dogs charity, they produce custom-ised books that allow children to read the same books as their classmates and friends. Look are a charity which has a focus on developing the confidence, skills and connections of those with visual impairment. They offer support in a variety of ways to both children and their parents. British Blind Sport are an organisation that encourages those that are blind and partially sighted to engage in activities and sports at all levels. Membership is free to all those under 17.